Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of this Cyberpunk Painting Tutorial Series. In this episode we're going to be covering the main body of the Mini. So this could be the torso of the Mini, could be parts of an arm like what I've done here, could even be the main body of the tank. But this all depends upon the areas that you've already set up for this series, for this episode. So do reach back to part 1 so that you can identify the areas that you're going to be blocking out ready for this episode. The aim of this episode is just so that we can create slight subtleness in the Mini, but whilst still achieving that metallic, sexy look. This is going to be broken up into different parts. So the first section, as you can see here, I'm going to be concentrating on a nice metallic look for some cylinders as well. So to start off, we're going to be concentrating on the side portion of the gun here, but you can use this on anything you like, and then we'll get into the main body of the episode. Check out the description box below. I've listed the full set of paints that you're going to need for this episode, so make sure that you've got all your paints ready and let's get to it. So to begin with, we're going to be using the Ivory paint colour from Vallejo Model Colour. You can actually use any other colours for this that has a slight beige bone tinge to the white, so paints like Pallid Witch Flesh, Wraith Bone will be a good alternative for this as well. So I'm just going to base coat the area here on the side of the gun with the Ivory, and what we're trying to do here is we're trying to layer down a nice light base coat so that the white scar later on, as well as the light blue, will pop more and become more vibrant as we start to create more layers in the process. So as you can see here, you should have a nice solid base coat of the Ivory on the side in which you want to try and achieve this metallic cylinder look. Okay, so we're going to grab the Lothern Blue now, and what we're going to do is slowly create a transition from the Ivory to that Lothern Blue on one side to the other. So the side I've chosen for the Lothern Blue is going to be the side closest to the gun. So the far edge on the opposite side will be eventually white scar to give that nice crisp white harsh line like what we did in part 1 of this series. So now we're going to grab our Teclis Blue, and you're going to be doing the same thing, but this time we're going to be going over the Lothern Blue. So we're going to be gradually going from an Ivory to a Lothern down to a Teclis Blue. Okay, so now we're going to be creating a more of a dark transition, and dark Prussian Blue I'm going to be using for this. I do highly suggest this paint, it is quite glazy, so it's very good to glaze over that blue and get that slow transition from the Teclis into a darker, richer blue. You can actually use any alternative paint for this, but this dark Prussian blue always seems to be the paint to go to when I want to try and do dark blue glazes. So now that's the blue that's taken care of. Now we're going to be doing the other side of the white, and that's going to be Genestealer Purple. So like everything on this model, it's either going to be purple or blue. So using the Genestealer Purple here, we're going to be adding a bit of water to the mix, 1:1, on your water palette. And then we're going to be creating a nice line on the other side of the ivory, which we painted earlier on. Okay, so we're going to be using the ultimate Cyberpunk colour, and that's Magenta. This is the paint that I used for this tutorial, but you can use any alternative. There's hundreds of paints out there with the same vibrancy of pink as the one that you can see here, but this is the one that I got from my local hobby store. But the aim of this part is we're going to be painting on the other side of that purple that we've just recently put down on there. So we're going to do it on the other side, and we're going to coat the rest of the me all the way down to the bottom using this magenta. So you should be left with something like this. So you're going to have magenta going into the white and then slowly transition into a dark, rich blue. So we're going to go over the ivory with some white scar now, and that's just to really make that the edge of the white line pop. And like we said in the first part of the tutorial series, we know that to achieve that solid metallic look, we want to create a harsh contrast between white tones and dark tones. So here the contrast is going to be between the white going into that dark purple. So now I'm going to be reaching back into the magenta. So as you can see here, I'm putting some white scar to the side and mixing it with some magenta. So we're going to be using about 3 part magenta to 1 part white scar, as you can see here. Making sure you've got a nice watery consistency there. Using the wet glove palette really does help out with this. So using a nice thin brush, we're going to be applying that down at the center of the magenta. The idea of this is just to give that more realistic look to the metallic. So towards the bottom of the mini, predominantly where you're going to be placing this, we're going to be highlighting some upward lighting. So we're going to be slowly introducing some of the white into the magenta. So we're going to start off with a 3-part magenta to 1-part white scar, and then we're going to slowly introduce more white as we go along. So there you have it. So you should have something like this. So I've introduced the white to the magenta, and then what I've specifically done here is towards the edges of each part of the mini where it's broken up, the lines on the gun, I've slowly introduced a slightly bit more white to it. So you can see there you've got different spots of white. Now we're going to be concentrating on the main body of the mini. So this is going to be the dark purples here. So I'm going to be applying all the way around here on the top of the arm as well as the bottom of the gun. The idea is it to be subtle, so it's going to break it up between the top part of the chrome and the bottom part of the chrome. So this is what I've done earlier. This is the main body of the ghost wheel. And as you can see here, I've used the same method. So at the top it's more purple, and then towards the bottom as we go down, it gradually gets more blue in saturation of colour. So applying the same principle there, what we're going to do is we're going to be using some of the dark Prussian Blue that we used before. We're going to be mixing it with some of the Xereus Purple, and we're going to be using some of the Abaddon Black. And this is going to be a 1-to-1 mix with all three. And this is going to be to take you some time to get used to in terms of trying to get that colour right. Just play around with the colour. It's quite dark in tone, so it's going to be quite forgiving. So just keep layering up the paint until you get it to that nice plum sort of colour. So hopefully after playing around with your mix of colours, you should be left with something like this. A nice rich plum sort of purple. Quite dark, but just that hint of purple coming through. So now we're going to start to glaze the top part of the mini, and we're going to glaze the bottom part of the mini. So the bottom part here, that's going to be your blues, and then at the top you're going to start to glaze more the purple. If we reach back to the previous example, see here at the bottom it's got a nice hue of blue, which we're going to be copying off, and then towards the top as it goes right to the top there on the shoulder, that's where we're going to start introducing more of the purple. Creating this small transition between the two elements gives us that cyberpunk feel, as well as giving it more of a subtle metallic look as well. So all I'm doing here, it's quite hard to see because the light is not really good, so I do apologise for that. But we're going to start introducing more blue to the colour. So all I'm doing is I'm reaching back to that mix that I did for the plum, and then we're going to be slowly introducing more of that dark Prussian blue. So we're going to make that blue a bit more intense. So we're going to add some Caledor Sky from Citadel Paints, and we're going to be adopting the same method here and slowly creating a glaze into the edge of the mini. So you can just about see it there. Again, the lighting is quite poor on this. So we're going to be doing right at the bottom, and we're going to be layering the Caledor Sky. You can go quite thick on the paint here at the bottom, but do be aware that you're going to be creating a contrast between the plum and the Prussian blue down to the Caledor Sky. So now the bottom's done, we're going to be doing the top. We're going to be reaching for the Xereus Purple from the Citadel Paints, and we're going to be adopting the same method here. So a slight mix of the Xereus with the plum, and I'm going to just etch out where I want the highlight to be going. So for me, with it being angular at the top, I'm going to be doing that harsh edge where his glove is. So it's going to be following the contour on the top as well as on the side. For you, if you're doing a tank, this could be the edge of the tank right at the top. If it's a shield, it could be the edge of the shield right at the top. This is where you can be quite creative with this, but just be aware that the purple is going to be either following the contour of whatever it is that you're painting at the top of the mini. So as you can see here, you can see that slight highlight coming through. It's quite subtle, but it gives a really good effect already. I've just done the sides there and I've done the top. But what we're going to do now is we're going to start introduce more of a vibrant purple to the mix, just to lift that highlight up a bit more. So this is where we go back to the Genestealer Purple, and we're going to be doing the same thing that we did before. However, we're going to do a slight mix of the Genestealer with the Xereus Purple there. So it's going to be a 1-to-1 mix, and we're going to be going slightly inside of that highlight that we've just painted. And there we have it. So that's the 1-to-1 mix of the Genestealer with the Xereus Purple. And now we're going to be going on to the Fulgrim Pink. And we're going to be doing the same thing, a 1-to-1 mix. And we're going to go in the center again of that highlight. Slowly, gradually increasing that Fulgrim Pink as we go along. So as you can see here, I'm reaching for a straight mix of that Fulgrim Pink now, and this is going to be straight out the pot with some water, a 1-to-1 mix, Fulgrim Pink, some water, and I'm going to go straight down the centre. Definitely going to be doing it on the corner there of the glove, and that's going to give us the nice rich highlight, a glow effect. So now I'm going to go back to the white scar, and I'm going to be mixing it in with the Fulgrim. And as you can see there, I'm just slightly putting it into certain places where I want that shine to creep forward on the contours. So I'm predominantly going for the edges here. I'm not going all the way around. We do want to give the mini some kind of interest. So I'm just doing it on the corners there, as well as right at the edges. I also use this for the edge highlighting. So for me, I have a lot of broken lines here on the side of the arm. There's several panels here, which is going to create further interest, as you can see. So this is going to be a straight white scar now, 1-to-1 mix with some water on your palette, and we're going to be concentrating on the far edges now of the contours of your model. So for me, again, I'm going to be following where I went with the mix of white scar and the Fulgrim, and I'm just going to be highlighting the corners there just to really make it pop. This also creates interest for some hot spots, as I like to call it, so where the sun's hitting the corners. If you look at metallic references, pictures on Google, you'll see a lot of white spots on the side of the metallic edges as well as metallic panels. So as you can see here, I'm going over the edges, so I'm doing some edge highlighting. I'm not following the edge all the way round. I'm just doing the corners as well as the sharp edges on each of the panel. If you went crazy with this and you did all the way around panels, it's not going to look realistic, and it's not going to give that nice purple glow to the mini. So if you have a mini like mine where you have a lot of edges as well as on the top as well as the sides, I've gone back to the Genestealer Purple just to tie up some of them dark edges that have been lost in the process. For you might not have any of these edges, you might have a nice round smooth surface or something like that, then you can pretty much ignore this stage. So at this point you should start to have a nice crisp highlights on the top of your mini. Now we're going to be doing the same thing, but we're going to be attacking the bottom of the mini. So now we're going to be creating a line right at the bottom here towards where we did the blue before, and we're going to be using the Lothern Blue to create that nice harsh line at the bottom. So if we reach back to the example like we showed before, you can see here I used the Lothern Blue right at the bottom, and it gives a nice contrast between that magenta and the purple. So like what we're going to do on that example, we're going to be using the crisp Lothern Blue line right at the bottom. For me, it was a nice harsh crisp edge like you can see here, but for you back home you might have something like a curved edge or a panel or something like that, so you just need to be aware of where you're going to stop with this Lothern Blue so you can get that nice contrast between light and dark again to reach that metallic effect. Once you're happy and we've got a border of the Lothern Blue, we're going to be reaching back to that Teclis Blue and we're going to be layering it right beside it, and we're going to be starting to create a transition between the two. So I'd go with a glaze consistency for this, so I'll go 3 parts water to 1 part paint. If you can, any more, that would be good. But just go easy with this, just take your time with it and just keep layering on the glazes till you get a nice finish. So as you can see, we're starting to get that nice transition between the two, but we need to create more of a seamless transition between that plum and that blue. So to help us with this, we're going to reach back to that Caledor Sky. Again, same consistency as before, nice glaze consistency. We're going to be slowly glazing that Caledor Sky Blue from the plum into the previous blue. So once you're happy with your transitions and you've got your blue set ready at the edge, we can start to highlight the very far edges of the Lothern Blue. So I'm using Blue Horror here. You could go back to your Lothern and add a bit more white to it so you can reach the same effect. But Blue Horror here is the go-to paint if you want to start to highlight that Lothern Blue right at the edge. So all I'm doing here is 1-to-1 mix with water and the Blue Horror, and we're going to be using this on the far edges. We don't want to be creeping too far into the other side of the blue here, just because we'll start to lose that nice transition that we've built up over time. At the same time, I'm attacking the edges, as you can see at the bottom, where we hit the Fulgrim Pink at the top for highlighting the edge. This is going to be our go-to paint at the bottom. So whilst I'm attacking that edge, I'm also attacking the edges as well, doing a spot of edge highlighting as I go along. Okay, just like before, we're going to be doing it again. We're going to be introducing white scar to the mix and slowly creeping that white scar, so we're just using it out the pot with some water. Again, I'm going to be just concentrating on the far edges here, on the corners, and then slowly creeping that Blue Horror and white into the purple as well. It's good to mix up the purple and the blues on the edges because it gives it a nice mixed feel, so that the mini feels like it's surrounded by a mixed glow of neon lights, which greatly improves that cyberpunk effect that we're trying to achieve. So there we have it. So you should have something similar to this. I hope you've enjoyed this part of the episode. It feels like we've achieved quite a lot here because we've covered quite a large portion of the mini, and we've reached a nice highlight, the purple at the top as well as the blue at the bottom. And as you can see, it gives it a nice subtle finish. So it creates that contrast between the chrome bits that we've done before. In the next portion of the series, so in episode 3, we're going to be concentrating on the black parts as well as any accents as well. So for me, it's going to be the tower symbol at the top as well as some of the gearing that you can see on the elbow. But if you like this video, like, subscribe, and follow me on my Instagram page, Citadel Paints, and I hope to see you soon in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.